hopefully prospers in life, unlike like what you asked for. So just a shout out to him.
Yeah, he's also a listener of our pod. You know who you are. We wish you the best.
Yeah.
But
One of three. Only 3 people know who they are. The other 2 are Sundars.
TV umpire to director, we have a player review. Can we rock and roll, please?
hello and welcome to Bits and Pieces, the friendliest cricket podcast. That's right, this is the kind of podcast that spots the nervous-looking newbie at a party and makes sure they're included in the conversation and comfortable. The podcast that will pull a best friend to the side and say, bro, I don't think this deodorant scene is working for you. Switch to an antiperspirant. Oh, and get vests with sleeves because antiperspirants stain. That's right, we'll never abstain from tough love and pain. Or Tim Paine. Or Dale Stain. Or Stale Dane. Wait, is it Dane? Anyway, this is the podcast that is self-aware and vulnerable and talks too much and then plans a trip to Goa with you for the next morning and never follows through because actions speak louder than words. But really, how loud do you need to be? I am Tony, and joining me today, first up, his generous beard and genial smile has earned him the title the Hirsute of Happiness. But don't let the gentle demeanor fool you. This is a man who is not faced by the celebrity appeal or celebr appeals. The man who bends over the rulers of cricket and spanks them with a wooden ruler for not being logical. The man who ensures there are no false stewards. The president of the Control of Broad for Cricket in India. Say hi, Abhishek Chopra.
Wow.
Wow. Thank you so much, Da. Glad to be here after the streak was broken last week.
I wrote the intro before realizing you got a haircut, but we will stick with Hirsute of Happiness. Sorry about that.
Brought back broken also, na? Not just the streak.
Yeah, properly, like Andrew Simon's bodying a streaker, that was like... Up next, the man who puts the Pro VC in provincial Victoria, the man who speaks truth to Powai, the IIT at which he's left a lasting legacy. He lunches with Gilchrist, flies with Dean Jones, and then inexplicably hangs out with the likes of us. So much so that one of us once asked, Mohan, are we your CSR? The Chinese authoritarians found a solitary tank man standing in front of them. The money grubbers at BCCI have something much more formidable to contend with. The Hank man. Please say hi, Hank. Mohan Krishnamurthy.
I visit this podcast once a week, every time I do, just for your intros, Tony. The rest of it, I have absolutely no knowledge on what's happening. Thank you, Dan.
Also joining us, if there was a combination of someone who advocates education and reading as many books as possible and eating everything delicious and an appreciation of bad puns, we would call him Masala Yousafzai. This man will always walk whether or not he's nicked it, as long as there is good food involved. The man who makes you want to spooner the name of a Pakistani cricketer who was humiliated by the intermittent fast bowling of Venkatesh Prasad. That was Amir Sohail, but we say Samir. Oh, hail. Say hi there.
Thanks, Tony. Thanks. We will. You'll never walk alone. I mean, I don't support Liverpool, but you'll never walk alone.
Yeah. That's a good segue because finally, many know him as a Manchester supporter, but actually this man is a chest harness because he's the biggest underdog supporter. What do you call an exotic tasty shake with dry fruits? The Swiss Bliss Kismis. Kismis in a shake, you ask? Well, this man is racing hell wherever he goes and doing it in the most unconventional way possible. From FMS to TAS to Cricinfo to organizing Olympics, Srinath Sripath's only negative quality is that he looks a lot like Chris Srikanth. But he has also got success in life and we are proud to call him a friend. The man about whom Robert Frost once wrote, 2 paths diverged in a wood and I took the Sripath and that has made all the difference. Say hi, Srinath.
What? I'm both shaken and stirred by that intro. Thanks, bro. Thank you, Tony.
Cool. So let's get right into it. Lots has happened, including things that have happened over a week ago, which refuses to die down, despite Chop's best effort at shutting up all of England. Yesterday, Ben Stokes has decided to put his foot in the mouth. So maybe we'll just do a quick roundup and conclusion of this nonsense, non-striker run-out saga and then move on to actual cricket. We should also mention that there was a very beautifully written piece by Sid Monga and then a Twitter thread version of the same by Harsha Bogle. Both we would assume independently produced because but the arguments.
Like this podcast.
Yeah, the arguments
Any
made a lot of
reference
sense, right? So
I don't think that anything that we say or do now is going to add anything to the whole discourse. Don't think the English are going to back off. And what Monga wrote makes a lot of sense in a lot of fields, not just cricket or not just the run out at the non-strikers end. But yeah, I think it's always...
let me stop you there. So humble, having been the main course of the discourse. Now you're coming and saying there's not much to add. It's amazing.
yeah. It's like mic drop has already happened now. Why will I pick it up and drop it again?
I don't think that the English are going to back off, or they're going to see much sense in how the world sees it. But I think what's been disappointing is that except Ashwin, none of the Indians, Indian male cricketers or female cricketers have really come out in the open. And I mean, they spend a lot of time on Twitter doing random, advertisements or stuff. But I mean, something if they can say about it, I think it would add a non-English current players' opinion to the discourse. But I mean, Alex Hales has been more vocal about it than any of us.
There is a fundamental difficulty for Australians and English in general to understand the differences, and I think Tony called it out. Not the inability to understand that there is a cultural element to the way you play the game, and that fundamental difference between the way the game is played over here. I will never understand this line in the sand, for example. I have no idea. This is so arbitrary. But there seems to be some concept of line in the sand that people understand over here. And maybe they ascribe to it. Maybe they believe in it. Maybe it's part of their culture. And the moment you refer to that culture, it is seen as a racist kind of a lens, right? So I don't think people over here will understand the way India and, let's say, the subcontinental teams view things like, I don't want to call it monkering, but running out the non-striker. I don't think they will particularly understand. And for Indians and Indian sports people in general, other than vocal people like Ashwin, it really doesn't matter. So I don't know if the Indian cricketers will ever get up and say, come on, bugger off. Shastri may have done it if he was a commentator, but I think now he's under the payroll of BCCI. I'm not sure he'll do it.
Yeah. No, I mean, line in the sand is still okay, right? Head in the sand is not. Like, India is the richest cricket team in the world, and England is the ostrichest cricket team in the world, right? Like,
no wonder the Poms are getting ostracized by this. But I will
ostracized.
Ostracized. But I will tell one player who will definitely not talk about this issue, and that is unfortunately Tanya Bhatia, who has lost her entire luggage, jewels, and an iPhone also. And she's blaming Marriott, and Marriott has yet to officially respond and even tell her, please drop a DM or we'll drop an automated DM for this.
But there was a nice tweet from the British Museum that said, "Don't worry, all your stuff is here with us."
Fake British Museum handle,
Yeah,
but
obviously.
yeah. Well,
British
amazing,
Museum.
really cool.
Really cool. But to continue on to Mohan's point, it's not just regarding this running out the batsmen at the non-strikers, and it's pretty much true for sledging. It's pretty much true for what happened in 2019. Every
Absolutely.
single incident.
Absolutely. And this has been playing out since 2008. And perhaps even from, before that, if you look at Shakur Rana, right? From that time, this has been playing out. And I don't think there is a ability or an interest to fundamentally understand subcontinental cricket other than making money in the IPL and getting out. Andrew Simons did it, and he may have just, he played in the same team as a person that reportedly called him all sorts of names. Who knows what happened on the field? But literally 2 months later, they were playing in the IPL. I don't think these players, the Aussies and the Brits, will ever understand that things like this really don't matter. Ashwin called it really well, and he is. The only rule that I play with is the ICC rules. Play on the field, give everything that you have, and shake hands when you get out. I'm paraphrasing his tweet, but something like that.
I think there's a couple of things, right? Like one thing I've noticed, and Alex Hales coming out in support of the run out kind of validates that thought even more, is that even if an English or an Aussie player today wants to agree with India and what Deepthi did, there seems to be this big element of shaming and what are the consequences if they go against the grain and say whatever comes to mind. Because like the whole community seems to be, hell-bent on saying this is against the spirit of cricket. The most important thing that I learned this week on this whole episode is from Sid Monga's article referencing Abhishek Mukherjee, who's a historian and written a column for Wisden. Throughout the 19th century and for the first half of the 20th century, the Brits were at it. The Brits were doing a lot of this stuff in their first-class games at Lords and all other venues. And back then, the batsmen and the batters were put to shame until Vinu Mankad comes and does his thing to Bill Brown. And then the whole narrative completely shifts in the other direction. So it's hard to, you don't want to quickly insinuate, colonialism and racism and bring it into sport without reason. But this seems like as good a case as it gets, and it's so perilously close to, that sort of thing, that sort of bias actually coming together. And I, for once, I'm fully with Hank on the IPL thing. Like, it's, for 2 months, they don't say anything, right? When Butler thing happened, Butler kept his silence until the end of the tournament. He did say he did come out to the press and say, I wouldn't do it, blah blah blah. But it's gone to a different level, and I think Tony will get to the Peter Della Pena threads in due course. Like, the man's been doing God's work in this space for the whole week.
But before we get to the threads though, 2 instances, of course, the whole running out at non-strikers, and I reference my favorite cricket movie of all time, Lagan. It's been referenced in there. The key batsman runner being run out at the non-strikers end, and coincidentally, Butler and Ashwin now play for the same team, funded by actually nice tasting raisins and cashews. So everything's happy low ever after. So yeah.
Nuts, you're nuts.
No, I mean, just at the point of the Australians, getting it, not getting it. The one thing that I have to say is that when the Bill Brown, Vinu Mankad incident happened, Bradman did come out in the press and said clearly he has absolutely no problems with it. I don't know what what the current lot of Aussie cricketers, domestic, international, think about it, but I mean, for all that it matters, the greatest Australian cricketer did say that it's absolutely fine by him. I mean, the line in the sand thing, yeah, I mean, it's another anachronism of perhaps, I don't know, 90s, 2000s Australian cricket. But honestly, I mean, everyone's taken to it. There's hardly any team, barring Toby's favorite New Zealand, the Nice Boys or whatever, who don't do it now, but the South Africans are at it. The English are at it. So
no, but what really annoyed me about the Ben Stokes thing is, right, we are very clearly, logically, there's only one way to go about it, right? And then Monga and Harsha Bhogle are actually extending empathy, saying probably we don't understand where they are coming from because it's a cultural thing, right? We are extending the benefit of doubt to you to say you're not fundamentally illogical, but this is probably the reason. To which Ben Stokes then says, why are you bringing culture into it? Which makes it absolutely, then you're basically saying that no, actually logically we don't understand the rule, right? Which is very confusing to me.
The reason why he did that, I think, is because exactly what Srinath said before. You can talk about colonialism, that's okay. But the moment you step into that line that extends beyond colonialism to racism, and therefore that reference to culture then just tips it across into that uncomfortable area, right? So people jump in and say, no, don't bring culture into this, and so on. So hence that preemptive strike, if you like.
Between Sid Monga and Harsha's threads and the story, I do empathize a lot with Harsha on this, because he's coming from a place where he's seen the power shift over 30 years in broadcasting, right? Like, his first 15 years was still the English, Australia, the Anglosphere era, and then the IPL comes and shifts it. And he's seen a lot of this in the combox. Like I do remember Shastri going all out on Hussain 2007, 2008.
Yeah.
That was a big moment in broadcasting, and Hussain was in a completely different place back then. And he's become like supremely erudite and, respectful, etc. since then. But every once in a while that bald spot comes out when you're literally calling it live. Like it's literally the first 20 seconds of it. He's like, we know it's in the rules, but then, we all heard what he said. And to Harsha's credit, there's things that he can't say with a BCCI contract, but there's things he says regularly. He calls out journalists who cannot still take it, who are English or Australian. He still calls them out for not being able to deal with the Indian money in the game and so on. So it is, at the end of the day, a very different perspective, and it probably is like things he feels deep down about how, I don't know, the Asian world is treated in cricket even today. One hypothetical that I would love to see is Atherton on air during the incident, because he's had a little bit of time, and I just went to his Times page, and he said there's a simple rule to Mankad Rose: non-strikers stay in your crease. So he's literally written a very Atherton-esque, sane sort of level-headed column a couple of days later. But it would have been really nice to see, because like as much as I put the two of them in the same box, I consider Atherton even one level higher than Hussain, like the absolute elite standard of broadcasting. So that would have been nice to see. Like I don't know what you would have said.
Yeah, but see, I don't have a problem with Nasser reacting in the moment like he did. He said, I think his words were, I don't know, it's in the laws of the game. And then he didn't say anything. He didn't support it one way or the other. But post that, you can still change your mind, right? And come back and say, I was wrong. And I'd be happy for him to do that. Right? It doesn't matter how you react in the moment. We all do stupid things in the moment, which is okay, I think.
I think to end the spirit of cricket debate, probably is the best example for spirit of cricket is what Chopper Nose told about from the Caribbean Premier League, that the best wicket celebration gets like a bottle of rum. That is true spirit of cricket, and I think it's time we all embrace this.
Yeah.
Everyone get yourself a bottle of your poison of choice. Just go home, pour some ice or pour neat or with water, have a chill one, and just put this debate to rest, because you do not want awkward situations. And unfortunately, one awkward situation that happened that most of us may have sort of glossed over was the post-match presentation, where Harmanpreet just kept on getting pestered about this one incident in a series that had her scoring 143, Julan Goswami's swan song. You had multiple bowling performances and an overall tour that was just off the charts for the Indian women. So you just took all of that aside and just put it down to one absolutely brilliant move by an Indian woman who's just been faced with vitriol. I think it's time we just said, everyone just go home, drink a bottle of whiskey, and then just, that's it. We are dominating. Just make peace with it. Okay?
But Samir, I think just as I hate the reference to the name that was given to it, but just as Monkey Gate was important in 2008, and just as Ashwin Butler was important, just to start the conversation that led to the changing of the rule itself, I believe it did, or maybe they were thinking about it, but they may have accelerated the changing of that rule and not calling it munkading, but calling it running out the non-striker. All of this is good, because there is some, and I think this debate is good, because people sit up and say, oh, hang on a minute, maybe there is something to this, and then Chops has a to do with Broad. That's pretty good.
A broadside,
and broadside, and Ben Stokes has it to do with Harsha Bhogle, in which there are all sorts of people buying into that and contributing to it. I think Nitin did contributed a bit into that debate.
Sorry, one last thing, good. And there were a couple of really good tweets from Karthik Krishnaswamy, who writes for Cricinfo. One, I don't know if both of them are from him, but the whole essence of the point was, we grow up in small by-lanes playing cricket where, you're basically fighting for every last inch of turf. because you lose a chance to bat, you get out, the ball hits a wall. If you move a little bit, the non-striker gets run out. You get like all sorts of these things on a daily basis growing up. Like the Brits grow up in like these big village grounds, and they have tea and scones waiting for them, and they get out and whatever. Like, I mean, man, it's two different worlds, right? Like, just respect that there's another way to do this, and it's not just like what you're used to. That's all.
And that's the culture that Bogle was referring to. That is the team, the playing culture that Harsha was referring to, and not any allusions to racism and so on, which Ben Stokes bought into. So I think it's a good debate to have.
Okay, so I think we have a broad consensus on the spirit of cricket debate, and we have to jump onto another Zoom call. So I am actually going to use this opportunity to tell you that I boxed you all into a corner. I started the podcast by referencing sweat and armpit stains and all of that. So in the light of all of this debate that is happening, how do we revisit and reevaluate the underarm incident? Boom.
That's
Beautiful.
I think
So-
because we've been talking about England and ECB and MCC and whatnot, good time to reference that the first edition of the 100 featured a sponsorship deal with Rexona, which basically put stickers under the umpire's armpit for when they signal 6. So that's
But we have
my
to say that
contribution.
son of Bosi predicted this earlier in his Rexona sponsors underarm tournament, and BBL then took it to the next level. The question was more not to others but to ourselves, because I think growing up, we grew up believing that the underarm was wrong, right? Like the use of that in that context was wrong. But
Exactly
now
right. So I think-
re-evaluating it, I think it was fair, because like now, like the only thing that should
You're
matter
saying
is the
it's
rules
fair
of the
because
game.
you're saying it's fair because New Zealand does.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Which is why I said you are all in a corner. I don't have a problem. But like we grew up assuming it was wrong, right? But is it wrong? Was it wrong?
So the underarm incident happened in 1981, right? And this is Jan 1983, England versus New Zealand at the MCG. Regular match in one of their tri-series, and England needed 3 to win off the last ball. And the batsman was Vic Marks, the bowler was Snedden, and bowled a normal delivery. Vic Marks was never a great bat. He probably got out or didn't score the 3 runs, and New Zealand promptly won. Now, New Zealand had a very boisterous PM back in the day called Robert Muldoon. So when the underarm incident had happened in 1981, he had said very succinctly that it makes sense that yellow is the color of the Australian team because yellow is also the color of cowards. And then when they won this inconsequential, useless match, he actually ended up sending a telegram to the New Zealand captain called Geoff Howard. And the telegram reads, "Congratulations self and whole team, particularly to Martin Snedden who bowled the last ball overarm."
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
No, but the
Tony,
flavor
going
has
back-
changed, right? The flavor of the season should
Flavor has
change.
changed.
Like you have
Yeah,
to
but
reevaluate
I-
your own decisions. That's
No,
the
going
basic
back to
point.
your probably your assumption that it's okay to bowl underarm. It's actually illegal under the rules of cricket.
Not when
Wasn't
it
that-
happened. No.
Not when
Wasn't
it
that
happened.
then?
Yeah.
Correct. Not
Exactly.
when it happened.
Yeah.
Now the thing is it normal practice? Is it done? Is it a good thing to do?
You're painting yourselves in a big corner.
That's-
Go for
This
it.
is a slippery slope.
No, but now today, right? This incident of running out the non-striker who's trying to gain an advantage is wrong. So I'm not painting myself into any corner.
Wait,
That
what?
is wrong.
You shouldn't run out.
You can
from
run.
one of the non-strikers.
You can.
Exactly. Same as
okay,
underarm.
correct.
It's legal. Was legal when it happened.
No, so I mean, we don't want to.
Yeah,
It
obviously.
was allowed. Okay.
Yeah,
See,
but,
it is
I mean,
in the
I-
as Nasser Hussain says, it is in the rules of the game, but I don't know. Is this the construct, right? And we are basically saying, are we able to like challenge our own earlier assumptions? And I am saying very clearly that the maligning of the underarm incident is wrong. At least we have to be logically consistent at this point.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I
Logical
get-
clarity that we are bringing is that if it's allowed in the rules of the game, stop talking about bullshit like spirit of cricket.
Yeah,
right?
it's always
In which
blood.
case,
It's
Exactly.
not takali chutney. Yeah, that's
correct.
all.
No, but I mean, I completely
Spirit of
agree
cricket
with Tony.
confuses things. Sorry, spirit of cricket just confuses things. It just diffuses and turns attention away from uncomfortable truths. That's all. That's the only thing that it does. And it's a convenient plank for someone to stand on and say, "Hey, there's a line in the sand with spirit of cricket." That's all. The only spirit of cricket that we should follow is that which is in the rule book. That's it. Shake hands.
I mean,
and finish the game.
completely agree with Tony there. The first cricket book I ever got was at a train station called Ratlam in Madhya Pradesh, and it was about the 50 most controversial incidents in cricket. And the first one was actually the underarm. And I remember reading it back then and thinking, what a terrible move to do that on the last ball. And after that, you saw that iconic Richie Beno clip in which he says it's shameful or whatever else. And Greg Chappell, his own elder brother, Ian Chappell, Greg's elder brother, goes on to say it was not a done thing. But I mean, I've changed my mind about it. It's completely on. Bodyline was on, and you can have all sorts of examples like this, perhaps not as prominent as these two. But, I mean, as long as it's in the laws of the game, there's a very fascinating story that is there about Dermot Reeve doing something of that nature in a county game. If it's in the laws, please go ahead, do it. If someone finds it giving you an unfair advantage, they'll change the laws. But if it's in
Chops,
the laws,
I
just
think
go ahead, do it.
I agree with all of this, and the analogies work till a point, except for the fact that with this
when
run
it's
out,
New Zealand.
also, but with this run out of the non-strikers and formerly Mankad, the direction of travel of the laws is the opposite, right? We're moving to a more accepting place, a more destigmatizing place, as opposed to discovering that this was a loophole and we need to shut it down and rewrite the laws, which is true in all those cases, whether it's bodyline, whether it's underarm, whatever. Now, in this case, we're saying the writers and the makers of the laws agree that there's a need to destigmatize and make this more normal and make it like a less shameful experience for the people doing it. So the direction of travel is the opposite here.
Can I predict?
I
Can I
agree.
predict the next move that might happen? And it's just a bold prediction over here. When there is a deflection from a throw, the Ben Stokes incident, of course, from a throw that hits a bat or a pad or something. If it hits the pad, then the batsmen don't run. If it hits the bat, do the batsmen run?
Of course.
At the moment, they
See,
don't.
The simple thing that we are saying is like players shouldn't be enforcing rules, right? Or calling back or asking for anything. It's umpires and the law should be clear enough. It's as simple as that.
Now, the law here is a bit obscure. There's no clarity on that particular law, and so there is all sorts of issues around spirit of cricket. The first time someone does it when a team requires 2 runs to win, there's a deflection. They run, the runs given. There'll be all sorts of hue and cry, and I hope it is not an Asian team. It's that does it.
But can I just say great save Chops. I want to call it a Ratlam save. If I've got the reference right. Is that a thing?
You have.
Yeah.
It is big time.
Huge.
No, but hasn't this happened? I mean, wasn't it Ashwin who ran
Ashwin
off?
again. Yeah, it was Ashwin.
Ran overthrows off the bat. I'm going to
Was Pant
go
and
back
Ashwin.
check it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pant and Ashwin. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's already happened. That's also fine, man. Do it. If it's in the laws, do it.
Yeah.
And
Challenge
go
it
ahead
and expose
Yeah.
the.
Yeah, Ashwin is a good benchmark to have. Like, he thought it was unfair to run a second run during that match. So he just
When he had him.
run. Yeah.
That's not rule. That is different.
Ashwin and Jardine.
This is also proof that why more people should actually do engineering and then come and play cricket. You'll have fields and all of that. And you can also then commentate about Ponniyin Selvan and do all of that. Right? Like the man is literally just, it's episode 36 or 37. I mean, he's going to beat our pod with Ponniyin Selvan stories. So yeah, there's that about Ashwin.
Cool. I think we've spoken about this for long enough. Hopefully, edits will make it shorter. But I definitely hope that in the upcoming World Cup, India runs out several people at the non-strikers end, especially of England and Australia. I'd be all for it. And I hope we win the World Cup that way. Why not? Because some things need zor ka jhatka. Moving on, there was a series in which Sanju Samson has ended up as the highest scorer.
Oh dear. You're actually talking about that.
Kerala guy roasting New Zealand. Why will Tony not talk about it? You tell me.
It's, India A versus New Zealand A, which we promised to round up. Sanju was the highest scorer in the tournament, but guess who had the highest batting average in that tournament? Yeah, but can anyone guess who had the highest average in that tournament? 3 matches, 1 days. It is going to be our Lord and Savior, Lord Shardul.
Seriously?
Oh my god!
No, as in I think he was not out in 1 innings. He basically played 2 innings, but yeah. But yeah, anyway, so
Central line rocks. Central line Mumbai rocks.
I'm just queuing this up because basically it's like nice time for Kerala because Sanju Samson's made it to the ODI series with South Africa. He was captain here. Rumors are that he'd probably be vice captain in the ODI series. There was a match in Trivandrum after ages, and like although like South Africa didn't turn up, pretty good stuff. Just putting the Kerala representation out there. And queuing in my dad, who will speak for a few minutes about what it means for Kerala. Hello, wonderful friends of Bits and Pieces. A bit of a self-indulgent segue here. The very first cricket podcast I recorded was actually a Malayalam podcast called Parambu 281. Along with my dad, we used to do a segment for that podcast. So when he was traveling by Bombay, I got him to sit down and record about 4 minutes about, what it was like to grow up with cricket in Kerala. So that's it for the next 4 minutes. This is Sebastian Kochukudy, who will take it away from here. Listen in. Thank you.
Well, I was born in a small village in Kerala with plenty of hills and mountains, fields and lawns, rivers and streamlets. There were times when the boys clistered onto the fields with their own clumsy local games. They tossed the ball around in a very crude form of what they called football. They just needed 4 poles and a ball. And some of them preferred hands to the legs and played volleyball. Cricket was not a game that they even had heard of. Yes, if you search history, you find cricket as a game transported to India by the Britishers. But this was restricted to kings and aristocrats confined to Triponithura and Tellicherry and maybe some parts of Trivandrum and Kottayam, and never for the common man. In fact, the books of history will tell you that the first ever 50-over cricket tournament in the whole world, the All India Puja Cricket Tournament, a brainchild of Sri K.V. Kelappan Thamburan, a member of the erstwhile royal family and the first secretary of Kerala Cricket Association, was organized in 1951 in Triponithura near Cochin. Few know it, and fewer still will acknowledge it because it had originated in remote Kerala. I too had the opportunity to be a part of the cricket administration as president of Malappuram District Association from 1981 to 84. Those were hard times for us. Several clubs were also organized to boost up the game and make it more popular among the common masses. Well then, I thought that not only Kerala, but even other places in the country did not have enough exposure to the game. An All India Inter-University tournament was organized in Calicut University in 1981 with Babu Acharat at its head. Naturally, I too was deeply involved. It was hard to find scorers because the score sheets were Greek even to those who professed by the game. Some 20 teams were participating, most of the ladies from the upper strata looking pretty enough. In one match, a lady who pretended to be very knowledgeable and looked aristocratic and pretty enough, went out to bat. She missed the first 2 balls she faced, and on the third got out hit wicket. She came back to the pavilion and was heard announcing loud, "I was not out, but self out." Seems she never wanted to expose her ignorance or technical insufficiency. Even in the 90s, the prominent local media in Kerala lacked sports writers with elementary knowledge of the game of cricket. I can recall a write-up in one of the most read Malayalam newspaper reporting that Weng and Sarkar together scored 92 runs when the dashing Dilip Weng Sarkar scored a scintillating 92. Those days of Test cricket did not take to the hearts of the average Malayali, and cricket remained confined to the very restricted localities. Even for important matches, matted wickets were considered a luxury. There was no money or fame in the game. The organizers had to shell out money from their pockets, and they did that just out of love for the game. I also had an attempted stint as a radio broadcaster in 1985. Took my audition test as an English commentator. As luck would have it for the listeners, I had to go out of the state on promotion on my official duties. It was only after the one-day games became popular, though after its own reluctant start, and the advent of TV telecasts in 1986, after the World Cup win of 1983, that the masses took the game to their hearts. And today, not only India, but Kerala also loves cricket more than any other game. Our own Sanju, though not in the Indian playing squad, is the player with the most fan following even in the whole country. Yes, Kerala is growing by bits and pieces.
Thank you, Daddy. That was my father, Sebastian Kochukudy, who sat down for bits and pieces, which brings us to the question, why can't you send in your segment about cricket, which we can feature on bits and pieces? This is the friendliest cricket podcast after all. You can reach any of us on our Twitter handles or social media handles. You can find it in our show notes and just send in a quick recording. Why not? And we'll probably feature it on bits and pieces. If you're too shy to appear on the full-fledged version of the podcast real time, so send it across, and back to the rest of the show. Moving on. Last time we recorded the pod, the third India versus Australia T20I was not completed, and what a great match it was, followed by India versus South Africa, and then the news that Bumrah is potentially out. So the build up to our T20 World Cup, guys. Thoughts around what you saw in the Australia-South Africa matches and where we stand.
I thought India played well in all of those games. Most of those games. Cameron Green, I thought, did exceedingly well. And then the unfortunate incident, news about Bumrah not being, potentially not being part of the squad. There's still not an official announcement on this. However, the interesting thing, and I don't know if you guys actually saw it, Saurav Ganguly was actually interviewed on this by Boria Majumdar's TV channel initially. Is that Chops is shaking his head?
So the people who interviewed him were from a channel called Extra Time, which is also, it was a journalist from a small-time TV channel, YouTube channel in West Bengal called Extra Time, which then possibly also supplied the clip to Rev Sports, which is Boria's channel. But officially Boria was not involved, but
it's
behind the scenes.
It's the same playbook from his captaincy days, so let's not be surprised.
If there is a Wikipedia image to go with conflict of interest, like Saurav Ganguly's face, should be the ambassador for general conflict of interest.
I found that quite stunning that a person who's actually discredited by the organization can actually tweet about it from his handle and his company as well. How do you get digital rights for something that you are discredited as a journalist? Anyway, but that's separate. But anyway, very, very disheartening news, and I think I don't rate India's chances very highly in this if Bumrah is not part of it.
Last week I said that don't be surprised if India crashes out of the Super Sixes first rounds or whatever. I think I'm just going to double down and say that it's imminent. everyone's just saying that we hope Bumrah's prognosis is in the positive direction. Saurav Ganguly did that whole thing and whatnot and whatever, but there is no bowling spearhead. I mean, if you assume Bhuvi, then best of luck. He's in the worst possible form. He's in a rut unless there has to be a full a redemption arc that's like a David versus Goliath levels redemption arc for someone to actually, for us to even win the World Cup, because it's increasingly going to be difficult at this point. I think we at least had a 40% chance last week, and then this news just breaks it. The one positive thing though is you really have to back and trust in Arshdeep. He's going to be your linchpin in the power play. I think the South Africa game was proof of it. I mean, South Africa have their own kettle and bottle of worries and a cup of worries that is overflowing, but Arshdeep's lines were spot on in that whole power play. And then it's absolutely criminal that they let them get off the hook and get to 100 for 8 after being 9 for 5. You should have actually closed the game at that point, but there is a template, and it's probably India at this point is having like serious clear issues. It's like one of those to draw
Rachel Ross.
Yeah, it's a Rachel Ross thing that is happening at this point. Clearly they have closure issues. You can draw sales analogies.
We're also the friendliest cricket podcast.
Central perks. We don't get central perks that the BCCI and the groundsmen get. But yeah, so it's a closure issue. But Arshdeep is the only positive thing that's come out of the South Africa game. And Sky's form in both this one is just amazing. I think he's just in an orbit, planet of his own.
But I'm supremely confused about all this, right? I mean, there is a plethora. The bench strength is, amazing. IPL mein to sab log khel rahe hain. And, people are doing all sorts of things. And you're talking of all these people as though they are, the next in line and all that. And suddenly you discover in the international stage that the cupboard is bereft of any talent. What is happening, guys?
Moment of silence, lads.
Hank, can I just say this works better than all your monologues put together? I just want to applaud the beauty of this. Very well played.
Beautiful.
Open-ended question and chill. That's all.
Yeah.
And after all that, you only have one Arshdeep to put on the podium. What is this? RCB.
God, okay. There goes my Sunday. But then to answer Mohan's question very seriously, right? Like balance as an issue is very apparent. I think with MSD's tenure in that whole World Cup, World T20 winning, then to even the bad shows in 2010 and even in 2014 when they could have won if not for that Yuvraj's spectacular bottle. One of the things that happened was MSD as a captain, wicketkeeper and a batsman plugged in that 4-5-6 role. So you could play specialist batsmen, you could play specialist bowlers because your batsman would be a wicket keeper. And there is this one person who's going to perfectly take over that role. And
Sanju Samson.
Who's going to magically... Yes, it is Sanju Samson. I am slowly buying into the whole Tony cult of Sanju Samson is the blue pill that's going to solve the problem.
Wow.
Because
I've been manifesting this, as they say.
Can I roll back some of the things, right? In 2007, I think India was completely naive about the game. It didn't know how to play the game. It didn't know what the game was about and actually played cricket over there. Now, they're diving into Stats Guru with matchups and this and that and the other because IPL has taught them that this is the way to play cricket. So suddenly statisticians are running the way the game is played and suddenly matchups become important.
You think this is not true of Australia and England? Sir, England is holding chits for their captain, like one big chit. Bowler number 4 for batsman number 3. This is what is happening.
Man,
You're taking my trolling seriously now.
man, after all this, I can really say that somewhere this Prasanna P-Dog guy is having like the night of his life.
Why not Ashwin also?
Ashwin also.
Ashwin doing article on
Ashwin's in the
Adelaide.
squad, right?
Ashwin is very much in this squad.
Realistically, Ashwin can bowl fast and bat left-handed and like solve all of our problems. He will be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 also. Like Kamal Hassan.
He will fix the data problems also and statistician problems and the matchups also. He do everything.
Commentary also.
Analytics. Commentary also.
Ashawataram.
Umpiring. Don't forget umpiring.
Courtesy cartographer.
The recently concluded IPL.
in Chops imitating Srinath, imitating Ashwin. This is why I'm here, basically. But in all seriousness, I just looked at the format. It's basically Super 12 and like 2 groups of 6 each. India is along with Pakistan, South Africa, Bangladesh, and 2 other associate nations, I want to say, not minnows. But basically,
Sri Lanka also possible.
Oh, Sri Lanka is part of the that
West
list.
Indies also. West
Oh
Indies
my
also
God.
possible.
Okay, fine.
Zimbabwe
Anyway, so
also.
you need to
Anyway.
finish top 2 of the group after playing 5 matches, which I think we are underestimating India if we don't think that we can be in the top 2.
No, not really, because the top 3 there is a problem, right? So then you say,
Top
okay, it's
3
all right. Of course. I mean, no. Basically, there is one fellow that has to be accommodated, and so therefore the top 3 is a problem. Okay, so that's essentially. So you say, okay, that's all right. We have Bumrah, we have good bowlers, and all that sort of stuff. So they'll make up. Like you're going in the train is 1 hour late. No worry, raat mein make up karega. So you say, okay, either the driver can go extra fast in the night or something to make up for slow.
Speaking of trains and miracles, this is all building up to Lord Shardul coming in and saving them.
Exactly.
Ponniyin Selvan only. Yeah.
So then you say, okay, the bowlers will make up for that, right? So and suddenly the key bowler is gone. Because of stress factor and all that. I'm still not coming to the actual rant around why it happened and player management and all that. But anyway, I'll save that for later.
The last straw that broke the camel's back is basically this. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
But Tony, one other thing, right? Like before Chops can take over, this is the exact same format of the previous World Cup that was there in Dubai. And remember, India bottled their games against New Zealand and Pakistan, played out of their skins, and they were like Daivame praying for net run rate and others to lose.
No, but then Kohli was captain. And Shastri was coach. That era is behind us now. It is Gamisar and Rohit. Why like such little belief? Please.
It is karma. Karma is to paraphrase the dialogue from Tamil movie Doctor. Karma is a boomerang. So the side. Yogi Babu says this, and then the side actor says, "Yaar pa Karuna's boomerang," and something like that. So it will be a boomerang for Jami sir and Rohit also, unless they just majorly fix this problem.
Which is appropriate, given that it's happening in Australia.
Boomerang also Ashwin can handle. TikTok, boomerang, anything.
No, I mean, I definitely think India's chances are screwed that much more because of... it wouldn't have been the same with any other player. Absolutely any other player. Perhaps 2 more players could have been injured, but with Bumrah going out, it's a big loss. While they keep saying it's not official yet, and Rahul saying he doesn't have the official word yet on whether he's in or out. But yeah, it's going to be, even if he's not at full fitness, it's going to be a big one.
Chops, I think in the interest of fairness, Hank should do a 1-minute tribute to Deepak Chahar, who missed the IPL all for a World Cup. He's fit for a bloody World Cup.
Yeah.
Well, there's an element of seriousness to that comment. I think, in one of the previous episodes, I talked about this quite atrocious amounts of money that are going into TV rights and all that sort of stuff, right? And one of the things that I said that maybe the BCCI should say is, I don't want the highest bidder. I want a bidder that gives me at least this much, but promotes the game in a really positive, good, sensible way. In terms of what and the definition of what good positive is the jury's out on that, and someone needs to sit down and say, okay, this is what good promotion of the game is. In a similar way,
Doordarshan or maybe.
Well,
DoorDash.
But the thing is this, right? If you say, okay, from a player management point of view, you can't use a contracted player at level grade A or B or C in all your games. You have to manage the workload of the players. And it's simple to say that, and it's known that fast bowlers will suffer stress fractures if they are over bowled and then you play them continuously. Just to put things into context, when Australian team returned to Australia after playing the series of games that they did, and Cameron Green played blinder after blinder after blinder, Cummins talked about player management and workload management and making sure that he's not overused. And in that context, he said it's inevitable that he will get an IPL contract and he will go into IPL. We can't stop it and we shouldn't stop him from doing that. However, we should manage the overall workload around Cameron management.
They're managing Cameron Green really well because he's playing all the bilateral T20s but not in the World Cup squad. So superb workload management only.
Well, whatever, right? I mean, whether that is right for Australia or not, it's for them to decide. But the essential point is, workload management is front of center, and you can't just say, Bumrah is bowling 64 overs, not a big deal. It is day in, day out playing, and match practice and match fitness is different to strength and conditioning fitness. Very different to non-match practice and non-match work, right? And it's not just bowling those 64 overs. You're there, you're running in the field, you are making the twos into ones and the threes into twos. This is anti-Gavaskar speak. So this is so you're basically doing that on the field and making sure that you are giving your 100% at full intensity on the field. That is not 64 overs. That's playing cricket day in, day out. That's workload management. And
Uncle Gavaskar commentary and anti-Gavaskar commentary. We've got it all. So basically what you're saying, what's happened to Jasprit is a boomerang that has come and hit us.
and because of that, Bumrah hone ka chances hai.
Bumrah.
But just to continue on to Mohan's point here, Australia, I think in the last decade or so, have had the most weirdest of injury problems, both from a physical and a mental perspective. Look at, say, a Will Pukowski, look at even Cummins himself. Starks had multiple injury scares, right? And all of that. Even in the women's game in the
classic example is Pattinson, right?
Exactly. Pattinson is the best example, probably. So they understand it from some point that this has to be an issue, player management and all of this has to be an issue, and we have to take care of it, right? I don't get, I think it's at an evolved level that they are able to identify these as patterns, whereas in India, Bumrah coincidentally was discovered by a scout for Mumbai Indians playing some league in Gujarat. So for them, it's just break in, and then there's a chance, right?
There is workload management is a serious issue. There are people who've done PhDs on this. There's a guy called Dean McNamara who's done a PhD on bowler workload management. I think he's a sports physiologist in Sydney, but he's actually done a PhD on this, talking about wearing monitors and so on, and making sure and understanding the physiology, particularly of fast bowlers, and the stresses that happen on their bodies and so on. There are lots and lots of scholarly articles on this as well. I'm happy to link some of those and pass some of those on. It is a serious business where you have a donkey and just flog it to death, and then when you actually need it, that's actually not available for you for to service you.
Logically, then shouldn't the best thing to do be to retire from Test cricket?
Hardik Pandya likes this.
Yeah.
But to be fair, I mean, what you're saying is absolutely true, Mohan, but I don't think Bumrah has played all that much cricket in the last year or so, right? It's not been like a workload management thing. It was just probably something that had to happen at some point.
Yeah, in fact, I think it's Wasim Jaffer or someone who's actually come out with one of those video things that they do on Cricinfo. Our friend, shout out to our friend Kospid, he goes on to say that the extended breaks that Bumrah has got, and it's like a short span of playing and then a short span of break and then again alternating between the two, which probably has done him more harm than good. It's still about how you manage bowlers and workloads and all of that, and how you're match fit versus just training physically, etc. But with Bumrah, it's I don't know if it's honestly bad player management or just a stroke of bad luck or whatever it is. But yeah, it's just a big, huge loss.
By the way, workload management is not just about overload. Workload management, you get stress fractures even if you don't bowl enough. So
And
there's a
then
fine
you suddenly
line.
bowl.
Correct. There's a fine line between bowling not enough and bowling too much. And that is the balance that. So management is about balancing that and managing that workload. And which is why, they said Cameron Green should sit out the World Cup.
Yeah. By the way, so for everyone hoping for a Gabba repeat in the World Cup, I've just checked the schedule. The only ground at which India does not play is Gabba. So, they're playing at Perth, Melbourne, I think Sydney, Adelaide also, but no Gabba. So, T. Natarajan and
Gabba
Washington
ka
Sundar.
Gabba government toot chukha hai.
I wanted to bring up inevitably is the third Australia T20 and Virat Kohli. Basically, there was this moment that happened, right? That at one point, Virat Kohli and Surya Kumar Yadav obviously put on like a 130 run partnership or something. But Kohli was the earlier person in, right? And he was trying to hit. And at some point, he looked at the dressing room and said, "Oh, should I rotate the strike?" It was evident on the screen. And then he went into that mode where, he switched and Sky started, rotating strike and Sky started hitting more. Not that he was not hitting otherwise, but I think it was like a nice sort of follow-up to our earlier discussion around what Rohit and Kohli were discussing in that 6-minute interview where he talked about roles and what he needs to do and stuff like that. And at the end of the match, he also basically called out how he should have probably finished the match earlier and it shouldn't have gone on for so long, etc., etc. I think it's really, again, with my Virat Kohli glasses on, it's great to see someone who was in a position of amazing power letting go of it so gracefully and contributing to the team's cause, right? So I don't know if you have thoughts around it, but yeah, I think that was one moment that stood out for me from that series and the third T20.
As a captain, he would think twice or thrice or so many times before taking some of these risks early on in his innings. And he doesn't need to swing and go across the line from ball 2 like he tried in England or whatever, but he's still shown that he's got these gears. And the immediate parallel I draw is watching Rizwan and Babar on the England-Pakistan series. They clearly hesitate to do anything to risk their wicket because they know what's coming after them, which is not true about India. You've got a Hardik, you've got I don't want to say DK, but Surya Kumar Yadav, and you've got some semblance of a middle order that's performed in the last year, which many other teams cannot afford, as you see. And Kohli, I don't think Kohli the anchor turns up. Kohli, if he plays the way he's been playing the last month or so, it's still good enough, because remember, there's the Pakistan game, but it's also Bangladesh and South Africa and the other two games who are also
I'll say
Sri Lanka Asia Cup winners, please.
Sri Lanka, yeah, hopefully other group.
But the one thing, Tony, I think he gave up his captaincy too easily. I think he was. I don't think it was a good phase for Indian cricket at all, and he walked away from it too easily and played straight into the hands of the people who were manipulative.
No, that's what's amazing to see, right? And it's a never before done thing. Letting go with grace.
And, letting go, but it's to his credit that he's done it that way. So he let go of his, and it's to his credit that he let go of the captaincy in a manipulative environment quite nicely. I don't think the right thing was done by him, and he's. I'm just watching from a distance, and this incident of maybe I should be rotating strike and so on. Kohli from about 3-4 years ago, going back to the 2016 Kohli that Samir talked about, right, in the IPL, he scored 974 runs. I do follow the IPL from a distance, but those kinds of things. I just want the Kohli of today to be the playing well. We can always go back and watch videos of the stupid games in which he scored 974 runs or whatever. But I want the Kohli of today. And today, the Kohli that I'm seeing, that I think I'm seeing, is one without ego. He's just playing the game the way it should be done for the team. And I think that's going to be good. I think a good Kohli will show up. It may not be that 974 Wala Kohli in an easy money tournament, but it's going to be a Kohli that I think is without ego and will play, I think, according to the team's needs.
Yeah, we'll still be shouting RCB in the stadium, so it doesn't matter.
I'll shout. I'm going for a few games. I'll be shouting RCB.
You should shout MCG, Hank.
But I think Mohan has just manifested Bradman from 1930. That was the 1974 run series. So yeah, I just hope he doesn't bat in Test match mode.
But I'm saying that I don't want to see the 2016 Kohli. I want to see the positive, ego-free Kohli that we see today, and that's what we need to enjoy. And if he plays in that way and holds one end up, so that we can have the problem is we have too many people who are holding on one end up. And if we do it in a good way, and Kohli is the only one that does that, that'd be fantastic. We have a chance. We have a guest.
Yeah, I think just to continue on to that point, right? Like while Kohli, the Kohli, the King Kohli, all of that happened, I think towards the end of 2016 season, when he suffered that split webbing, right? And then despite that webbing, did he go and make that century? I think you saw shades of this guy who really wanted to win it. I think that hunger, right? Like that he wants to win it and, go conquer. Someone has to channel that hunger. I mean, that's basically the 2016, this one. He has a lot of
players change, players' roles change, players' attitudes change, players' abilities change, capabilities change. I always used to say, when people say, oh, I want the Sachin Tendulkar of old, the 1998 Sachin Tendulkar. If you want the 1998 Sachin Tendulkar, go and watch the bloody YouTube video. Right? Let's watch the Sachin Tendulkar and celebrate the Sachin Tendulkar of today. That's exactly what I'd like to do with Kohli. Let's celebrate the Kohli of today, which is different to the 2016 Kohli.
The funny thing is, different teams want different things, right? Like India wants more hunger from its players. Pakistan fans are complaining that their players have too much hunger and eating burgers and pizza. So, Srinath, please go ahead.
No, I was just saying, Samir kept saying 2016, but like the thing we keep forgetting about Kohli is like his runs and his knocks and his impact were good enough to win him 2 Player of the Series awards at World T20s, right? Like which is absolutely insane for a format like this to be consistent. And of course, like one of them, both of them featured knockouts, semi-final, finals runs. And that's the key thing. Like you can score all the runs you want, but if they're not impactful or fast enough, the game just like ignores you to a different degree. Hank kept saying small money tournament, like it's some village bet match tournament in like some corner, and like
fake IPL.
I love how we all ignored it completely.
Yeah, who are T20?
I didn't say small money tournament, right? I said some small tournament.
Small. But I hope you shout MCC when Ashwin runs out Butler. That'll be cool.
I want to see a lot of those incidents happen. I want to see a deflection where Ashwin runs, right? And then see the entire world.
I just want to see Ashwin run.
Something very interesting happened in the last 15 odd days, middle of September. So I'm paraphrasing the Caribbean Cricket Friends at Caribbean Cricket podcast who shouldn't have faced it. So this is the quote goes like, so first let me address where we've been for 10 days. For those who don't know, we were sent to Twitter jail for reporting on the SA auction and using the word of South African currency. Apparently, it means something else in Hindi, and that was enough for someone to snitch. The second tweet goes like, may the person who sent us to Twitter jail under false pretenses never prosper in life. May your ancestors punish your indiscretion.
So I was the one who dropped it on the group, and the place where the place where the screenshot came from is one of my friends at Twitter India, who hopefully prospers in life, unlike Like what you asked for. So just a shout out to him.
Yeah, he's also a listener of our pod, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know who you
but yeah,
are. We wish you the best.
Yeah.
But
One of three. Only 3 people know who they are. The other 2 are Sundars.
Oh my god.
In solidarity, Tony will beep that word out.
yeah, we should.
Just a quick shout out to Jenny Rodriguez for the beautiful innings that she played in the opening game for India at the Asia Cup, and another one for Sarfraz Khan, who's been having a tremendous season with the bat. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to make it to one of India's senior teams or not, but what a season, and another blockbuster innings against Saurashtra for the rest of India team. So yeah, I hope both of them continue to do well.
Jemmy in general is a joy. What a amazing cricketer.
What a wholesome human. That's my...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. But I don't know about Sarfaraz Khan. Has he played under the captaincy of Ajinkya Rahane and like been sent off the field? Otherwise, you probably haven't arrived yet.
Recently, I had the misfortune of watching Cobra. It is a Tamil movie starring Chian, Vikram, Roshan Mathu, and among others is the certain Turkish Interpol officer whose role is essayed by none other than Irfan Pathan. So, cricketers, ex-cricketers, retired cricketers having spectacularly bad debuts in movies just continues. Recently, Srinath also had a very bad role in Katu Aklar and Kadal, and we just made a list. So, dear ex-cricketers, please pick your roles wisely.
I thought Hank was going for Srinath towel reference, but
Yeah.
Srinath and all easy pickings done.
Yeah. With that, I think we should throw in the towel and call it a day on what has been the longest recording of Bits and Pieces. Hopefully, a much shorter edit, which I am setting myself up for. If you've stayed with us this long, thank you so much, and we hope we make your commute to office a little easier. And if we do, why don't you share it with a few of your friends and rate us 5 stars on whatever podcast platform you're listening to. Only 5 stars, please. That's the only perk we ask for. Have a break, have a cricket bat. Whatever.
every week we sound more and more like Uber drivers, man. Amazing.
Superb. Thank you. This is Tony, Mohan, Srinath, Abhishek Chopra, and Samir signing off. Say bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. See you next week.
Bye.